The ballroom glittered like a dream. Chandeliers spilled golden light across crystal glasses and polished marble floors, and every corner buzzed with voices, laughter, and the subtle power games of the elite. At the heart of it all stood Clara Weston, her emerald silk gown catching the light as though it had been spun from the same gold as the award in her hands. "Ladies and gentlemen," the announcer's voice boomed through the microphone, "please welcome your CEO of the year, Clara Weston." Applause erupted, sharp and thunderous. Clara smiled, the smile she had perfected over years of practice, one that conveyed warmth without revealing too much, confidence without arrogance. She stepped forward, her heels clicking in rhythm with the pounding of her heart. Her fiancé, Ethan Harrington, sat in the front row, his tailored suit as immaculate as his reputation. His eyes, a cool shade of steel blue, locked onto hers, and he gave her a proud smile. It was the kind of smile every woman in the room envied, a smile that said, "She's mine, and together, we're unstoppable." Clara held the crystal trophy close to her chest, the cameras flashing like bursts of lightning. "Thank you," she began, her voice even, controlled. "This award isn't just for me. It's for my team, for the countless hours of sacrifice, for the relentless pursuit of innovation. It's proof that when you believe in yourself, when you commit fully to your vision, dreams can come true." More applause, rising like a wave. Clara bowed her head, then looked out into the sea of faces. Everyone was clapping, everyone was smiling, everyone was envious. She had what she had chased for so long: recognition, success, power. And yet, as the sound began to fade, drowned out by the deafening silence inside her own head, Clara felt a strange hollowness open in her chest. It was as if she were clutching not a trophy, but a gilded cage. The applause ended. The moment passed. But the emptiness stayed. Hours later, the gala had transformed into a whirl of champagne toasts, murmured deals, and laughter that echoed off marble columns. Clara glided through the room, her hand resting on Ethan's arm. He was magnetic in these spaces, charming executives and senators alike with the ease of a man born to wield influence. "Darling, Senator Walsh is dying to meet you," Ethan whispered, guiding her toward yet another handshake, another round of carefully chosen compliments. Clara smiled, nodded, played her part. But her gaze, restless and searching, wandered beyond the circle of power players. That's when she saw him. Behind the velvet rope of the VIP lounge, a man in a crisp waiter's uniform balanced a tray of drinks. His dark hair was shorter than she remembered, flecked now with silver at the temples. His jawline was stronger, weathered. And his eyes, those warm, kind eyes, had deepened with shadows. Clara's breath caught. Leo. Her chest tightened, the air around her crackling with the ghost of a life she'd abandoned a decade ago. But it wasn't just Leo. Half hidden behind his legs stood a little girl, no older than 6. She clutched the fabric of his trousers, peeking out with wide, curious eyes, a small bow clipped to her dark curls. Clara's heart lurched violently, as if the floor beneath her had tilted. Ethan's voice pulled her back. "Clara, are you listening?" "Yes," she murmured, though her eyes stayed fixed on the man who once held her entire world in his hands. Clara made an excuse, something about needing air, and slipped away from Ethan's side. Her pulse thundered in her ears as she crossed the polished floor toward the lounge. Leo noticed her approach. For a split second, his expression faltered, surprise flashing in his eyes. Then, like a curtain falling, he gave her a small, professional smile, the kind a waiter offers to any guest. "Good evening, ma'am," he said, his voice steady, controlled. But to Clara, it was like hearing a song she thought she'd forgotten. She froze, words tangling in her throat. "Leo," she breathed, barely audible. His eyes met hers, and for a heartbeat, the years between them dissolved. She saw the boy who had sketched portraits of her in the college courtyard, the man who once promised her a simple, love-filled life. But then the moment was shattered by a soft, piping voice. "Daddy, can I have a cookie?" The little girl tugged at Leo's sleeve, her big brown eyes blinking up at him. Leo's gaze softened instantly, and Clara felt her stomach twist. His hand brushed gently over his daughter's hair as he knelt to her level. "Not now, sweetheart. Daddy's working," he whispered, his tone tender but firm. The girl pouted, but then spotted Clara. Her eyes lit up with curiosity. "Who's she, Daddy?" Leo hesitated. Clara held her breath. She's... He straightened, his expression unreadable. She's just someone I used to know. The words sliced through Clara like glass. The silence stretched between them, thick and suffocating. Clara's mind spun with 1,000 questions, but none made it past her lips. The little girl, Maya, Clara would later learn, tilted her head, studying her with an openness that only children possessed. Then, without warning, she reached out a tiny hand toward Clara. Clara's throat tightened. She glanced at Leo, but his eyes were fixed on his daughter. Carefully, as though touching something fragile, Clara extended her own hand and brushed her fingers against Maya's. Her heart skipped. It was such a simple gesture, yet it cracked open something deep inside her. The warmth of that small hand against hers was unlike any award, any accolade. It was real. It was alive. Maya giggled, as though sensing Clara's hesitation. "You have pretty rings," she said, pointing at the glittering diamonds on Clara's fingers. Clara laughed softly, an unguarded, almost forgotten sound. "Thank you, sweetheart." Leo cleared his throat. "Maya, why don't you go sit with Uncle Jamie for a bit?" he said, gesturing toward another waiter across the room. The girl obeyed, skipping off, leaving Clara and Leo standing in the fragile space her absence carved out. "I didn't expect to see you here," Clara said finally, her voice trembling. "Life's full of surprises," Leo replied, his tone polite, distant. But his eyes, they still carried the weight of their shared history. They found a quiet corner, away from the swirling noise of the gala. For a long moment, neither spoke. "So," Clara began, her hands twisting around the stem of her champagne glass, "you're working here now?" Leo nodded. "Catering's just a side job. Keeps the bills paid." "And the little girl?" "My daughter," he said simply, his voice carrying both pride and exhaustion. Clara swallowed hard. "She's beautiful." A flicker of a smile touched his lips. "She is." The silence that followed was heavy with the weight of all the words they weren't saying. Clara wanted to ask everything: how his life had turned out, what had happened after she left, whether he had ever forgiven her. But Leo didn't ask why she had left, didn't demand explanations. His quiet dignity, his refusal to reopen old wounds, cut her deeper than anger ever could. Finally, as she turned to leave, the question burst from her lips, raw and unguarded. "Leo, do you hate me?" He looked at her then, really looked, and for the briefest moment, Clara saw the man she had loved staring back. His answer came not in words, but in a silence that spoke volumes. Clara lay awake in a lavish hotel suite, staring at the city skyline glittering beyond the floor-to-ceiling windows. Ethan's steady breathing beside her should have been comforting, but instead, it felt suffocating. He slept like a man at peace, secure in his victories, certain of their shared future. But Clara's mind was elsewhere. Every time she closed her eyes, she saw Leo's face, the practiced waiter's smile, the quiet exhaustion in his eyes, and the way his entire being had softened when Maya tugged at his sleeve. She hadn't even asked the questions that were tearing her apart. Is he happy? Has he forgiven me? Did he ever love someone else? Her chest ached with a longing she didn't recognize, a hollow yearning that no amount of accolades could fill. Impulsively, she reached for her phone. Her thumb hovered over the screen as if it weighed 100 pounds. She found his number, not from memory, but from the Gala's catering contact sheet, which she had quickly saved under the guise of professionalism. Her message came out cautious, disguised. "Hello, Mr. Delane. I'm impressed by your team's professionalism tonight. I'd like to discuss possible business opportunities. Would you be available for a meeting?" She hit send before her rational brain could stop her. Her pulse raced, guilt pricking her skin. What was she doing? The phone buzzed almost immediately. "Sure. When?" No hesitation. No small talk. Just direct. Clara's breath caught. She typed back quickly, her hands trembling. "Tomorrow. Lunch." There was a pause, long enough to make her regret everything. Then, "Fine. Bring your appetite." She exhaled, heart hammering. For the first time in years, anticipation, not for a deal or a contract, but for something deeply personal, kept her awake until dawn. The diner was nothing like the five-star restaurants Clara was used to. The air smelled of fried bacon and coffee, the vinyl seats cracked with years of wear. A jukebox hummed faintly in the corner, and the servers moved with the easy rhythm of routine. Clara felt out of place in her tailored cream blazer and silk blouse, but when she saw Leo sitting in a booth with Maya beside him, her discomfort melted into something else entirely. "Hi," she said softly, approaching. Maya's face lit up. "Pretty lady," she chirped, bouncing in her seat. Leo's lips twitched. "That's Clara," he told his daughter gently. Clara slid into the booth across from them, her heart tugging at the sight of Maya clutching a coloring book, crayons scattered across the table. "So this is the big business meeting?" Leo asked, raising a brow, his voice tinged with dry amusement. Clara flushed. "I may have stretched the truth." His eyes held hers, steady and unreadable. "Why?" She hesitated, fingers tightening around the menu. "Because I needed to see you. To talk. To understand." For a moment, neither spoke. Then Maya held up her coloring book proudly. "Look, I made a rainbow." Clara leaned closer, smiling genuinely. "That's beautiful, sweetheart. You're very talented." Maya beamed. Leo's expression softened, the faintest hint of pride flickering across his features. As the food arrived, burgers, fries, and a grilled cheese for Maya, Clara watched them interact. Their laughter was unpolished but warm. The way Leo wiped ketchup from Maya's chin, the way she leaned against him as though the world was safest in his presence, it pierced Clara in ways she hadn't expected. She realized, with a pang, that this simple, imperfect meal carried more joy than any champagne toast in her life. After lunch, Leo suggested a walk to the nearby park. Maya skipped ahead, chasing pigeons, her laughter ringing like bells. Clara and Leo followed, an awkward silence stretching between them. Finally, Clara broke it. "I didn't come just to talk business. I've been lost, Leo. More than I realized." He glanced at her, his expression cautious. "You seem to have everything. Theo. Awards. Ethan. On paper," she admitted. "But inside, I feel empty. Like I built this empire and locked myself inside it." They sat on a park bench, the winter sun filtering through bare branches. Maya ran circles around a fountain, her shrieks of joy filling the air. Leo leaned back, his hands clasped loosely in his lap. "Maya saved me from that. From myself. She gave me purpose when I had nothing." Clara turned to him, startled. "You mean, after I left?" He nodded slowly, eyes fixed on his daughter. "I was broken. I thought ambition was enough, but when you walked away, I realized I'd been chasing shadows. Maya changed that. She showed me what matters." Clara swallowed hard, guilt rising like bile. "I thought leaving was the only way to build my future. I didn't realize I was destroying yours." Leo's gaze met hers, calm but firm. "We both made choices. I don't blame you anymore. But don't expect me to pretend it didn't hurt." The words cut, but they also freed her. For the first time, honesty flowed between them, not wrapped in anger, but in truth. Back at the penthouse, Ethan studied Clara with sharp eyes. She had been distant all week, her phone always on silent, her smiles delayed, her attention scattered. "Where were you this afternoon?" he asked casually, though the steel in his voice betrayed him. "Lunch meeting," Clara replied smoothly, hanging up her coat. "With who?" She hesitated. "Potential partner. Nothing important." Ethan's jaw tightened. He stepped closer, his cologne sharp in the air. "Clara, you've been different lately. Distracted. If something's wrong, I need to know." She forced a smile. "Nothing's wrong." But he didn't believe her. The silence between them stretched, brittle and sharp. That night, as Clara pretended to sleep, Ethan lay awake beside her, his mind turning like a machine. The next day, he made a quiet phone call of his own, to a private investigator. A week later, Clara found herself in Leo's modest apartment, the air filled with the scent of pasta and crayons. Maya was working on a school project at the kitchen table, a cardboard solar system, planets dangling on string. "Clara, can you help me paint Saturn's rings?" Maya asked, her big eyes pleading. Clara laughed softly, rolling up her sleeves. "Of course." They worked side by side, dipping brushes into paint, laughter spilling freely. As Clara leaned over, she noticed a shoebox on the counter, half open. Inside were old sketches, drawings Leo had made years ago. Her own face stared back at her from pencil lines, captured in moments she had forgotten. "Leo," she whispered, holding up one. "You kept these." He shrugged, a shy smile tugging at his lips. "Couldn't bring myself to throw them away." Clara's chest ached. They flipped through the sketches together, memories surfacing, college days filled with laughter, stolen kisses under the campus oak tree, dreams shared on notebook pages. Leo studied her face as she laughed at an old caricature of herself. For a moment, time folded back on itself. She looked like the girl he once loved, not the polished CEO. And for the first time in years, Clara felt like that girl again, alive, real, and full of dreams that had nothing to do with boardrooms or trophies. The call came late in the evening. Clara was in her office, hunched over a mountain of contracts she no longer cared to read, when her phone vibrated. The screen lit up. Leo. Her heart jumped. She hadn't expected him to reach out, especially not at this hour. "Leo," she answered quickly, her voice betraying both hope and fear. "Clara." His voice was strained low. "It's Maya. She's burning up. I don't know what to do." The sound of panic in his tone pierced her. Without thinking, she shoved the papers aside, grabbed her coat, and headed for the elevator. "I'll be there," she said, not caring that Ethan would notice her absence later. Leo's apartment was dim, lit only by the weak glow of a bedside lamp. Maya lay on the couch, cheeks flushed scarlet, her little chest rising and falling too quickly. She whimpered softly, her tiny hands clutching a stuffed bear. Clara's heart clenched. She knelt beside her, brushing a damp curl from the girl's forehead. "Oh, sweetheart." Leo paced the small living room, his hands trembling. "She was fine this morning. Then she started coughing, and now she's burning up." "I don't." Clara caught his hand, stilling him. "We'll get through this." Together, they alternated between cool compresses and spooning medicine into Maya's mouth, coaxing her to sip water. Hours passed in a haze of worry, every whimper from the child twisting Clara's insides. At one point, Maya stirred, blinking up at Clara with glazed eyes. "Will you stay?" she whispered weakly. Clara swallowed hard, nodding. "I'm not going anywhere." And she meant it. The night stretched long, punctuated by the rhythm of Maya's shallow breaths. Clara sat beside the couch, exhaustion tugging at her bones, but she refused to close her eyes. Leo moved quietly, replenishing the compress, checking her temperature, murmuring words of comfort. Clara watched him, struck by a tenderness she had never seen before. This wasn't the ambitious artist she once knew, nor the broken man she had glimpsed at the gala. This was a father, steady, strong, unyielding. At dawn, Maya's fever finally broke. She slept peacefully, her little hand still clutching Clara's fingers. Relief flooded the room like sunlight. Leo sank into the armchair, rubbing his eyes. "Thank God." Clara smiled tiredly. "You did everything right." He shook his head. "I was terrified. Every time she's sick, I feel like I'm failing her." "Leo," Clara leaned forward, her voice soft. "You're the best father I've ever seen. She's lucky to have you." For a moment, his eyes met hers, raw, unguarded. "You don't know half of it," he said quietly. She tilted her head. "Then tell me." He hesitated, then exhaled. "Maya's mother left when she was 2. Said she couldn't handle the responsibility. I begged her to stay, but she walked out and never came back. Since then, it's just been me." Clara's chest tightened. "Leo, I'm so sorry." He shrugged, though his voice trembled. "I used to think I wasn't enough for you. That maybe I wasn't enough for anyone. But Maya proved me wrong. She gave me a reason to fight." Clara's eyes stung. She wanted to reach for him, to erase the years of pain etched into his face. Instead, she whispered, "You're more than enough." Meanwhile, across town, Ethan sat in his office, the glow of his computer screen casting sharp angles on his face. His private investigator's report had just landed in his inbox. With a grim expression, he opened it. Photographs filled the screen, Clara at a diner with Leo and his daughter, her laughter genuine and unguarded. Clara sitting on a park bench beside Leo, their faces inches apart, her hand brushing his arm. Clara at Leo's apartment, kneeling beside Maya's bed, her expression tender and maternal. Each image was a dagger. Not of betrayal in the physical sense, Ethan knew she hadn't crossed that line yet. But emotionally, she was already gone. The investigator's notes were clinical, factual. Subject has been meeting with Leo Delane and his daughter multiple times weekly. Emotional intimacy observed. Ethan leaned back in his chair, jaw tight. His empire, their empire, was at risk. Clara was drifting, and with her went the perfect image they had built together. He closed the laptop with a snap, his mind already calculating. Clara didn't need punishment. She needed direction. And Ethan would be the one to provide it. Clara was in her hotel suite, sipping coffee, when Ethan appeared in the doorway. His presence was unervingly calm. "We need to talk," he said simply. She set her cup down slowly. "About what?" He handed her a tablet. On the screen, the investigator's photos glowed like accusations. Clara's breath caught as she scrolled, her laughter frozen in frames she hadn't realized were being captured, her tenderness laid bare. Her hands shook. You had me followed." Ethan's voice was cool, measured. "What else was I supposed to do? You've been sneaking around, lying to me. Did you think I wouldn't notice?" Tears burned at the corners of her eyes. "It's not what you think." "Oh, it's exactly what I think," Ethan replied. "You've fallen into some nostalgic fantasy with a man who serves drinks and his little girl. And in doing so, you're jeopardizing everything we've built." His words stung, not because of their cruelty, but because of the cold, detached logic behind them. "This isn't about business, Ethan," Clara whispered. "It's about me. About what I've been missing." Ethan leaned closer, his eyes like steel. "No, Clara. It's about control. And you're losing yours." That night, Ethan poured them both glasses of wine, his demeanor collected, almost disturbingly so. "I'm not here to accuse you of cheating," he began. "I know you haven't crossed that line." Clara stared at him, wary. "But the optics," he continued smoothly, "are disastrous. Imagine what would happen if the press saw these pictures. CEO of the year sneaking off with a single father from a catering crew? Do you understand how fast the vultures would circle?" Clara's stomach twisted. "So what do you want me to do? Deny what I feel? Pretend I don't care?" "Yes," Ethan said bluntly. "That's exactly what I expect. We can spin this. Say you're mentoring him through a non-profit initiative. Frame it as charity. The public will eat it up. It will make you look generous, grounded. And our empire stays intact." Clara stared at him, horrified. "You're turning my heart into a marketing strategy." Ethan's lips curved into a cold smile. "Everything is strategy, Clara. That's what you've always admired about me." Her throat tightened. "And if I refuse?" His eyes darkened. "Then you'll destroy not only yourself, but everything we've built together. The choice is simple." Clara looked away, her chest heavy. For the first time, she saw Ethan not as her partner, but as her warden, chaining her to the very empire she had once thought was freedom. And deep down, she knew a storm was coming. The Harrington penthouse gleamed like a showroom, every object perfectly placed, every surface polished to reflect success. But Clara felt trapped in it, like a mannequin posed inside a cage of glass. Ethan stood before her, his suit jacket still on though it was past midnight, his wine untouched. His tone was calm, but his words sliced like a blade. "It's them or us, Clara. You can't have both. One of them has to go." The silence in the room was deafening. Clara's pulse hammered in her ears. "You mean Leo," she said flatly. "And Maya." Ethan's jaw tightened. "Don't say their names like they matter more than what we've built." Clara laughed bitterly. "Built? You mean bought. Bought with late nights, traded souls, and sacrifices neither of us can get back." Ethan's eyes hardened. "You wanted this as much as I did. Don't act like you didn't claw your way here. Don't pretend you're some victim." She turned away, clutching the railing of the balcony, staring at the glittering city below. Her empire stretched across that skyline, but so did her emptiness. When she finally spoke, her voice was quiet but firm. "You're right. I wanted this. I bled for it. But now I want something else." Ethan's expression flickered, as though for the first time, he realized she meant it. "Be careful, Clara," he said softly, dangerously. "Don't throw away the only thing that makes you matter." But she had already decided. The boardroom was a cathedral of glass and steel. Men and women in tailored suits sat around the long mahogany table, their faces expectant. Clara stood at the head, her hands steady though her heart raced. "Ladies and gentlemen," she began, her voice echoing in the room, "today marks my final day as CEO of Weston Harrington." Gasps rippled. Murmurs erupted. "Clara, this is absurd," barked one director. "You're the face of this company." Another leaned forward. "If this is about Ethan, we can mediate." She raised a hand, silencing them. "This isn't about Ethan. It isn't about profits or stockholders or awards. It's about me. I have given this company 10 years of my life. And now I'm giving it the rest of my freedom." The room buzzed with disbelief, outrage, panic. But Clara felt strangely calm, as though a weight had lifted from her chest. When she walked out, her resignation letter left neatly on the table, she didn't look back. For the first time in years, she was free. Clara stood outside Leo's apartment, her heart pounding against her ribs. The rain had soaked her coat, plastering her hair to her face, but she didn't care. She knocked, breathless, trembling. The door opened. Leo stared at her, stunned. "Clara, what happened?" She laughed shakily, tears mingling with the rain. "I quit. I left it all, the company, the titles, the golden cage. All of it." He blinked, incredulous. "You, what?" "I did it for you," she whispered. "For Maya. For the life I should never have walked away from." The silence stretched. Clara's chest burned with fear. What if he didn't want her anymore? What if she had thrown away everything for nothing? Finally, Leo exhaled, his hand brushing over his face. "Clara." Her voice cracked. "Tell me I didn't just make the biggest mistake of my life." Leo stepped closer, his eyes searching hers. And though he didn't speak right away, the warmth in his gaze told her everything. He pulled her into his arms, holding her as if he'd been waiting 10 years for this moment. The bridge between their broken past and uncertain future was finally rebuilt. The mornings in Leo's apartment were chaotic, burnt toast, mismatched socks, Maya's giggles echoing through the halls. But for Clara, it was heaven. One Saturday, she found herself on the floor, building a Lego castle with Maya. The little girl looked up at her suddenly and asked, "Are you going to stay forever?" Clara's heart swelled. She nodded, tears pricking her eyes. "If your dad will let me." Leo, who was making pancakes in the kitchen, smiled softly. "I think that can be arranged." They were rebuilding life in small ways. Clara traded her tailored suits for jeans and sweaters, her board meetings for evenings spent reading bedtime stories. She took Maya to school, learned how to braid her hair, and found joy in the simplicity of grocery shopping as a family. It wasn't glamorous. It wasn't powerful. But it was real. One night, as Leo tucked Maya into bed, Clara stood in the doorway, watching the tender way he brushed her hair back. Her heart whispered a truth she had long resisted. This is love. This is home. A year later, the world had shifted. Clara no longer appeared in magazines or on business covers. She no longer stood in golden light on grand stages. Instead, she sat on a park bench, holding Leo's hand as Maya ran across the grass, her laughter filling the air. A simple silver band gleamed on Clara's finger, a symbol not of wealth, but of promise. Leo squeezed her hand gently. "Do you ever miss it?" he asked. She thought for a moment, watching Maya chase butterflies. "No," she said finally. "Because none of it ever made me feel like this." He smiled, pressing a kiss to her temple. As Maya ran back, breathless and smiling, Clara pulled her close, wrapping her arms around the little girl who had unknowingly stitched their broken lives together. Clara realized then, with absolute clarity, that the true trophy wasn't the crystal award gathering dust in some boardroom. It was this moment, this man, this child, the life she had almost lost, but finally found again.
The end.